He entered the coffee with firm steps, the cold look and the presence of those who carry the weight of power. The silence took over the place. Customers stopped talking, and Emily, waitress that served breakfast, froze with the tray in her hands. The man, dressed in an expensive suit and accompanied by 2 security guards, walked to the counter and stopped before her. For a second, no one breathed. Then he said in a firm voice with a tone that seemed to mix anger and relief, "Daughter." The sound of that word broke the air like glass. Emily was out of reaction, her eyes wide. A billionaire calling her thus in public, as if she was part of her family? It was absurd. She had never seen him before, and yet something in her gaze seemed to recognize her. His name, David Whitmore, echoed in the headlines of magazines and news. A man surrounded by power, secrets and scandals. But what could he want with an ordinary waitress? The truth is that it all started a day earlier, with something seemingly simple. A forgotten phone at one of the coffee tables. A gesture of honesty, a small act of goodness, and fate decided to intervene. Emily returned the device without imagining she was opening the door to a hidden life full of secrets and a pussy truth that would chase her forever. Before you continue, comments here. What would you do if a complete stranger called you a daughter? Leave your like, subscribe to the channel and get ready, because this story will arrest you to the end. But the answer that came, it was not what everyone expected. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The sound of the cups, conversations and radio at the counter disappeared. All Emily listened was the echo of that word crossing the air. Daughter. The hands trembled and the heart was beating out. The man before her was not any stranger. The firm posture, the impeccable suit, the gold clock. That face she had already seen on TV, in business magazines, headlines about companies that changed the world. David Whitmore, a billionaire surrounded by rumors, scandals and family tragedies. The kind of man who lived surrounded by secrets. But why was he there before her, saying something so impossible? The eyes turned to Emily. The boss, Christopher, appeared from the kitchen with the frown, asking what was going on. She couldn't answer. David approached, taking an old photograph from his pocket, the paper already yellowed over time. A clear-eyed little girl, and shy smile, was holding a small teddy bear. The resemblance was scary. Emily felt the air miss. "This girl," she whispered. David nodded slowly. "And you. Or at least, that's what I believe." The entire coffee seemed to watch, curious. Emily wanted to escape, but something kept her there, paralyzed. His words sounded too absurd to be true, and yet there was something in his gaze that didn't seem like a lie. Christopher crossed his arms, impatient. "Sir, I think you are wrong. She has been working here for years, and it has nothing to do with the Lord." David looked at him coldly, the kind of look that made anyone shut up. This is something that only she can say. Emily backed up a step. "Why? Why do you think I'm your daughter?" David took a deep breath, as who fights against old memories. "Because 23 years ago, I lost someone, your mother, and what she took away, it was more than my heart." Emily swallowed dry. The mother's name echoed in her mind, accompanied by a pain she could not explain. Since childhood, he had never had answers. The mother spoke little, always avoiding the past, always changing the subject when the subject was the father. She never told anything, never left clues. It was as if a part of the story was simply erased. What if it was true? What if that man said what she spent her life trying to find out? Would you, in his place, confess or hide a secret like that? David took a small folded yellowish envelope out of his pocket. "This was delivered to me after your mother died. She said that one day I would find you." Emily took the envelope with her handy hands, recognized the calligraphy. It was the same as the cards that the mother left in the fridge when she needed to work at night. The same delicate writing she hasn't seen for years. "Emily, if he finds you, listen. Not everything is what it seems." The words burned. The floor seemed to spin. She stepped back, trying to understand what she was reading. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "Truth," he said. "Just that." Before he could react, the boss approached furiously. "Emily, enough of this staging. Return to work now, or it can be considered fired." She blinked, astonished. "But sir, It doesn't matter," interrupted Christopher, pointing to the kitchen. "This is a coffee, not a stage of family drama." David turned slowly, looking straight at him. "Careful with the tone. And who do you think it is? Someone who can buy this coffee 10 times, but who prefers to solve things calmly." The whole environment froze. Emily felt her body light, as if she was out of her mind. In a few minutes, his life had turned upside down. An anonymous waitress, now involved with a man who everyone feared and respected. Christopher snorted and slammed the door. Customers, one by one, began to whisper. Emily felt everyone's eyes on her. "I wanted to disappear." David approached again. "I know it's hard to believe, but your mother tried to protect me from someone, and you need to understand the reason." She took a step back. "Oh, what if it's a mistake? What if I am not who you think?" "Then I will have lost only one day," he answered calmly. "But if I'm right, you lost a lifetime hidden behind a name that wasn't yours." The words echoed in her mind. A hidden life. The mother always avoided photos, always kept papers in a box that no one could open. There was something there, something she never wanted her daughter to find out. Emily looked at the envelope once more. Inside was a small golden key and an annotation. "The truth is where it all started." A shiver ran through her spine. What was the mother trying to hide? "And you, have you felt that your family hid something from you?" David said goodbye with a trembling handshake, leaving a card on the table. "When ready, look for me." He left, and the coffee breathed again. But nothing seemed the same. Emily kept the envelope in her pocket and continued the shift, trying to fake normality. Only the head wouldn't stop. That night, when he arrived home, he opened his mother's old box. Inside, newspaper clippings. Everyone spoke of the same man, David Whitmore. And in one of them, a headline shouted, "Billionaire loses wife and newborn daughter in mysterious disappearance." Her heart stopped for a second. The dates coincided. The location, too. She suddenly stood up, the kneaded roll in her hands, the lost look. The mother had lied. And perhaps the reason was not just protection. Are you in her place? Would you have the courage to face the truth? Suddenly, a noise from the window made her turn around. A black car was parked across the street, the engine on, the headlights lit. Emily approached, trying to see who was inside, but the darkened glass did not let it. And when she blinked, the car ripped off, disappearing at night. The phone then rang. An unknown number. She answered with a trembling voice. "Emily," said the voice across the line. "Don't trust him." And then the sound of the call fell, leaving only the echo of fear itself in the air. Emily remained motionless with her phone in her hand, her heart hammering her chest. The voice on the other side had been short, firm, and urgently. "Don't trust him." Just that, no name, no explanation. And then the call fell, leaving only the static sound and the fear itself filling the quarter silent. She looked at her cell phone, trying to call back, but the number had disappeared from the history as if she had never existed. A shiver traveled his back. David Whitmore, the man who claimed to be his father, was a billionaire surrounded by rumors, powerful companies, secret business, and a family that rarely appeared in public. Everything she knew came from the headlines, and yet the way he had looked at her in the cafe, it didn't look like a lie. There was something true there. But now someone would tell her not to trust him. She took the envelope and the little key again. The mother's phrase echoed in her mind. "The truth is where it all began." Emily got up, walking to the old wardrobe. Deep down, there was a box that she never had the courage to open. The last object of her mother, put the key in the lock. Giroux. The click echoed through the room. Inside, just a few old photos and a small videotape with a handwritten label. For the future. Emily was paralyzed. In the midst of dust, an image caught his attention. Her younger mother hugging a man who didn't seem like the same David she met today. The face was familiar but could not remember where. Behind the photo, a date, 2001, and a New York address. And you, in her place, would have the courage to see what's on a tape left by someone who is gone. Curiosity was stronger than fear. Emily connected the tape to her mother's old device, which miraculously still worked. The screen blinked, and the shaking image began to form. His mother appeared, sitting on the edge of the bed, his teary eyes. "If you are seeing this, my daughter, it's because he found you." The air disappeared from Emily's lungs. The mother's voice seemed to cross time. "The man who will look for you is dangerous. He is not the one who says he is. Beware of the surname Whitmore." The blood froze. The record chin trembled, the sound was squeaking, but the message was clear. "There are people who would do anything to hide what happened 23 years ago. They took me everything, and if you stay, they will take you too." Emily paused the video, her hands shaking. The words, "Do not trust him," echoed again. Who was lying? The man who had called her daughter or mother, who kept secrets for a lifetime. She looked out the window. The black car had returned, parked across the street. Fear turned into adrenaline. Someone was watching. Emily turned on the lights and lowered behind her curtain. He managed to see a silhouette inside the car, a man talking to his cell phone. At the same moment, her phone vibrated again. A new message, of unknown number. "Get home now. They already know." She didn't think twice. He stuck the tape in his bag, took the key and the envelope, and left the back door. The cold wind of dawn cut her face, but the panic kept her moving. He walked fast through the empty streets until he reached the corner lit by a pole. Suddenly, a white car leaned against her, the glass lowered slowly. For a moment, Emily thought of running, but then he heard the known voice. "Enter." David was behind the wheel, the serious look, the tired face. "We need to talk. Now." She hesitated. "Did you follow me?" "No." The answer came firmly. "I'm trying to protect you." "From who?" David was silent for a second. "From those who killed your mother." Emily's legs almost gave in. "What?" He took a deep breath. "She didn't die of an accident, as they told you." She was silenced because she knew too much. Her throat crashed. "The Lord is lying." David stared at her, the dark look. "I wanted to be, but there are things you need to see." He delivered a leather paste. Inside, newspaper clippings, medical reports, and a blurred photograph showing a man identical to what appeared next to his mother in the box. "This man," David said. "It was my brother." Emily stared at him incredulously. "Your brother?" "Yes. And it was he who tried to hide you. He knew that if the truth came to light, the whole family's empire would be destroyed." Emily tried to join the pieces. "So, the tape. It was a warning," David replied. "His mother found out that he diverted money from companies, and when he tried to report him, she disappeared." Her stomach rolled. Nothing made sense, and at the same time, everything seemed to fit in. Your mother, silence, fear, hidden life. It was a story of family secrets and betrayals, a hidden life built on lies. And would you, in his place, confess a family crime or protect his own name? Emily watched him for a few seconds. I wanted to believe it, but his face seemed to carry the same kind of darkness as his mother feared. "Why now? Why look for me after so long?" David hesitated before answering. "Because time is over. Matthew found out where you are." "Who is Matthew?" "My son." Her blood froze. "So he is my brother." "Half-brother," David corrected, "and he doesn't accept to lose what he believes to be his." Emily looked at the back seat and noticed a shadow moving. The heart accelerated. Before he could ask, a voice came from the dark. "She won't go anywhere, Father." The dread took over her. Matthew was there, in the car, with a cold look and a smile from those who already knew the end of the story. David turned slowly, tense, but not surprised. "Matthew, don't do that." You brought her to me, didn't you?" His voice was too calm. "I just need to make sure she never tells what she knows." Emily backed off against the door, looking for the latch, but before she could react, Matthew pulled something from her coat. A metallic glow reflected the light of the pole. Her cry was lost in the sound of the engine on, and the world for a moment stopped again. That night, the street silence would be broken not by the noise of the city, but by the beginning of a secret that should never have been revealed. The metallic shine reflected in the window glass before Emily could react. For a moment, he thought it was a gun, but when Matthew moved her hand, she realized it was a key identical to what your mother had left inside the envelope. The same shape, the same symbol recorded on the metal, a small letter W, the Whitmore family emblem. Her heart shot. David looked at the object with a mixture of anger and tiredness. "Where did you get it, Matthew?" The son released a cold laugh. The right question would be, why did Mom had an equal? The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Emily looked from one to the other, not understanding. "Mommy, has David's wife also had that key?" "This is not possible," she whispered. David took a deep breath, looking away. "It's time for you to know part of the truth." Emily stared at him incredulously. "Part? After all this, there are still more secrets?" He nodded. "Many. More than I would like." The car was standing on the roadside, and the distant sound of the engine seemed the only sign that the world was still spinning. David ran a hand over his face, as one who carries too much an old burden. "That key opens a safe that contains the story of your mother and our family." Emily tried to take a deep breath, but the air seemed stuck in her throat. "And where is this safe?" "In a place where no one should go back," he said. "In the house where it all started." Her mind filled with images that made no sense. The mother, the tape, the warning not to trust him. But now, listening to David talking to that gravity aroused something different, a question that grew with each word. "And you, in her place, have the courage to open a safe that can destroy everything you believe?" Matthew leaned on the bench, his cold eyes. "No need to pretend, Dad. She won't open anything. She has no idea what her mother did." "Shut up," David growled. "Why? Are you afraid she finds out that it was because her mother died?" The sentence cut the air like a blade. Emily felt her whole body freeze. "What?" David turned slowly, but could not hide the expression of pain. "Matthew, you don't know what you're saying." "I know, yes." The son's voice was now firm, almost triumphantly. "She died, trying to hide what you did." Emily opened the car door tightly and went out to the shoulder, the cold wind hitting her face. "I needed to breathe, think, understand what was going on." The two men began to argue inside the car, voices rising, accusations crossing, and all she heard was the sound of her own heart. She walked away a few meters, staring at the dark sky, and felt the tears burning. "Who is lying?" he thought. "My mother, this man who calls me daughter, or his son who looks at me like I'm a threat?" Suddenly a memory came, like a snap. The mother's letter. "There are people who would do anything to hide what happened 23 years ago." 23 years. It was exactly the age she was. She returned to the panting car. "Take me to this house. Now." David looked at her in silence. Matthew laughed, sarcastic. "Do you really think you'll find answers there?" "I think I've lost too much to keep running away," he said. "I want to see with my own eyes." David hesitated for a moment but gave in. He turned on the car and left. The way was long and winding, cutting roads that seemed forgotten in time. The radio was off, and the only sound was the engine snoring. No one spoke. After almost an hour, they arrived at a dirt road flanked by old trees. In the background, a mansion surrounded by high walls and iron gates. Emily recognized the place of the old photos her mother kept. It was there. The whole past was locked behind those gates. David got out of the car and typed a password on the gate panel. The entrance lights light up, revealing a garden covered with dry leaves and an imposing facade. Emily felt a chill. I lived here until I was 5, David said, his voice hoarse. Then I ran away. Fugi? Of what? Asked Emily. From my own family. He looked at her firmly. The name Whitmore may seem synonymous with power, but it also carries rot. As they walked around the silent house, Emily felt the floor grind under their feet. Each frame, each old furniture seemed to observe. The atmosphere was heavy, as if the secrets of that family still breathed on the walls. They arrived at the office, and David knelt before a bookcase. He pulled an old volume, and a panel slid, revealing a sausage built into the wall. Emily saw the same symbol recorded on the key she brought. She fit her into the lock. For a second he hesitated. He took a deep breath and turned. The click echoed as a shot. Inside, there were folders, ribbons, and a metal box with the name of the hand written by hand, Sarah Whitmore. Emily took the top envelope and opened it. Inside, a birth certificate. Her name, Emily Sanders. But in the field of father, a different name, Michael Whitmore. She looked at David, shocked. You're not my father. His face paled. I didn't know she had registered like this. Matthew stepped forward, the dark smile. Now you understand, isn't it? My uncle was her father, not you. The floor seemed to disappear. Emily staggered back. A billionaire who claimed to be his father, but the true man behind the story was another. Someone she never knew. Someone who perhaps wasn't even alive. And you, in his place, confess a secret like that or keep hiding everything? She faced David with anger and confusion. Why did you lie to me? Because if I told the truth, you would never hear me, he answered. Your real father was a dangerous man, and he is still alive. The silence fell over the room. Matthew stopped smiling. Emily felt her heart accelerate again. David approached, his voice low, almost a whisper. He knows you exist, Emily, and it won't stop until you find you. The window shuddered with thunder in the distance. She stepped back, feeling the fear climb like a tide. And then, from the aisle-shaped door, a cold, calm voice echoed. Too late. I already found you. The sound of that voice made Emily's blood freezing. The man who emerged in the corridor's dim light was tall, thin, and meticulous, wearing a dark suit that seemed to absorb the low light from the environment. The grey hair was perfectly hairstyle, and the cold I need to swept the room until it landed on it. For a moment, no one breathed. David stepped ahead, his face taken by a mixture of fear and anger. Michael, the man smiled slightly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. How long, brother? The word brother stopped in the air like a poison. Emily felt her legs weakened. That was the man of the document. The name of the father field on the certificate. Michael Whitmore. The man who everyone believed to be dead. David kept his body tense, as if every muscle was ready to fight or escape. You should be in London. It was, Michael answered calmly. But when I found out that I brought her here, I realized that she finally lost control. Emily took a step back. Did you bring me? Did you know he would come? David looked at her quickly. I just wanted to protect her. Michael laughed. Base. Protect it? You brought her straight to the place she should avoid the most. He entered the room with the calm of those who feel owned everything. He passed his fingers over the old table, observing every detail of his daughter as if analyzing a lost artifact. It's impressive. She has her mother's eyes. Emily swallowed hard. Did you know her? Michael stopped for a moment, studying her face. I not only met her, I loved her. And in a way, I still love it. The words fell like stones on the floor. David squeezed his fists. Shut up, you don't know what you're saying. I know more than you think. He walked to the open safe, watching the papers on the table. Then you finally found out what hides in here. Emily watched him silently, trying to understand what was behind that quiet tone. Something in it seemed too false, too controlled, as someone used to hiding crimes under the rug of a powerful family. Do you want to explain to me what's going on? She asked, her voice shaking. Because so far no one told me the whole truth. Michael turned slowly, the fixed gaze in her. The truth. Your mother tried to keep you away from all this, but she got involved in something she couldn't control. What are you talking about? Of power, he smiled. The type that destroys whole families. And would you, in his place, confess an old crime or keep hiding the truth to protect your name? David, step ahead. You lied to her, Michael. You lied to everyone. Sarah believed she was saving her daughter, but all you wanted was to erase the evidence. Michael raised his hand, calm. Evidence of what? From the fact that you always wanted to be me. The two men were now face to face, and Emily could feel her hatred pulsating between them. It was not just a family dispute. It was something deeper, a war fought for years, built on lies, jealousy, and power. You don't understand, said David, his voice loaded. She was killed because of you. Michael sighed. Sarah made her choices, and one of them was hiding a child who could not exist. Emily felt her heart tighten. A child who couldn't exist. Michael looked at her, and for a second, cold control seemed to falter. You. The word sounded like a blow. Emily took a step back. What do you mean by that? Your mother and I, he hesitated. We were together before any knowledge. But there was a clause, an unbreakable rule within the Whitmore family. Heirs out of marriage were a stain, an error to be deleted. She stared at him, not believing. Are you saying you tried to erase me? No. He looked down. Others tried, and I let them believe. David approached, the voice loaded with anger. You let them kill your own daughter, and you took the opportunity to take all that was mine, Michael countered. Company, fortune, name, even her memory. The air got heavy. Emily felt her tears in her eyes, but didn't drop it. The world that was beginning to open seemed like a dead-end maze, made of lies said in the name of love. She turned to David. So all this was a war between you? A power dispute? No, Emily. It was a dispute for you, said David, his embargoed voice. Your mother knew one of us would try to find you, and she chose me. Why, and I knew Michael was capable of anything. Anything, Michael repeated, ironic. How to manipulate an innocent girl to believe in a lie. David thrown over him, pushing him against the wall. The sound of the impact echoed through the room. Emily shouted, but neither stopped. The past was exploding there before her. The fight of two men who loved each other, betrayed themselves, and now struggled for what was left of their own conscience. Suddenly, something fell from Michael's pocket. A small videotape, similar to the one that Emily had found at home. She bent down and caught her before anyone reacted. What is that? He asked. Michael was still, the cold look again. Nothing you need to see, Emily held firmly. So that's exactly what I'm going to watch. She ran to the device in the corner of the room and put the tape. The shaking image began to form. An old recording showed an office, the same where they were now. Michael sitting at the table, talking to someone out of the frame. If she talks to the press, we go out. Sarah will never understand what is at stake. His voice echoed in the real environment. David was paralyzed. Emily took her hands to her mouth. You had my mother killed. Michael stepped ahead, the empty face of emotion. I protected the family. And you, in her place, believe in forgiveness after hearing this. The tape stopped, and the silence was broken only by the panting breathing of the three. David stepped toward his brother, but Emily put herself between them. He arrives. I don't want lies anymore. I want to know everything, now. Michael sighed. All? So get ready, because what comes next is worse than you think. A bang outside made them turn around. Headlights crossed the window. Several cars quickly approached the road. David ran to the curtain. They thought us. Who? Asked Emily, terrified. Michael looked at her, finally with something that seemed real fear. The same who killed your mother. The house shuddered with the sound of tires and doors knocking. Shouts approached, and before someone could act, the glass shattered. The first bullet crossed the mirror of the room. The sound of the glass shatter seemed to freeze the time. Emily threw herself behind the table, her heart beating like a drum inside her chest. The first shot crossed the mirror, the second hit the lamp. David grabbed her by the shoulders and pulled down, protecting her with her body. Michael ran to the window, opening a hidden drawer and removing a gun that seemed to have been there for years, waiting exactly for that moment. The whole room plunged into the chaos. Voices shouted outside, steps echoed through the hallway. David shouted for her to run, but Emily couldn't move. The smell of gunpowder, the sound of the shots, the vision of the blood dripping from a cut into his arm, all mixed with the fear of a truth that it did not understand yet. Michael shot his firm hands, his eyes cold. He knew what he was doing, and it terrified Emily even more. How could a man be so calm in the midst of death? David managed to drag her to the side aisle. "There's a back pass," he said in teeth. "Fast." But Emily stopped, looking back. And Michael made his choice a long time ago. The words echoed in her mind as they ran through a narrow corridor. Each step sounded like a watch, marking the end of something. When they reached the back door, David used the same key she had found in the envelope. The gate opened with a sharp creak. Outside, the cold air of the night cut off my face. Emily breathed with difficulty, trying to understand what was going on. "Who are these people?" he asked, panting. David looked at the horizon. "Men of the Council, the same group that has always controlled the Whitmore family." He paused. "And you don't accept someone like you exist?" Emily turned to him, shocked. "Someone like me? An heiress out of the rules, out of the bloodline that they believed to be pure." The words left him silent. Emily had never been so shifted, so lost among truths that contradicted themselves. That simple waitress life, in the morning serving coffee and cleaning tables, now seemed a distant dream, something that belonged to someone else. The girl, she had been disappeared. And you, if you found out that your whole life was built on secrets, could you forgive? A sound behind them made her turn. Michael appeared from the darkness, the dirty face of blood, but the intact, sharp look. "They won't stop," he said. "We need to get out of here together." David placed himself between him and Emily. "After all you did, do you think I will believe it?" Michael ignored him and approached her. "Your mother didn't die as he told Emily. She was killed trying to save you from me, and from him." The confusion exploded in her mind. "Two of you?" "David, it's the man you think," he continued. "That accident that killed your mother was planned, but not for me. It was for him." David turned, his eyes wide. "Lie? Then tell her," Michael advanced. "Say who was driving that night." Emily looked at both of them, her heart beating so loudly that the sound of the faraway seemed distant. "What does he mean, David?" The man was silent. For a moment, he didn't seem to know what to answer. Then he looked away. "I tried to save her. It was an accident. You lied to her all her life," Michael said, a cold voice. "You killed the woman she loved and used her daughter to redeem herself." Emily's legs gave way. She fell to her knees on the floor. Each sentence was like a knife, cutting what was left of stability inside it. The man who claimed to be his father, the man who swore to protect her, was now accused of destroying everything she loved most. David approached, his embargoed voice. "I swear I never wanted to hurt anyone. Sarah got into the car and I lost control." Emily interrupted him, her voice broken. "And instead of telling the truth, did you let me believe she was murdered?" "I thought it was better that way," he said. "I wanted to save you." "Save me or manipulate me," she shouted. "Everything I lived was a lie." David reached out. "Emily, listen to me." But she retreated. "No, I don't know who you are." The sound of sirens echoed in the distance. The flashlights cut the woods. Michael looked at both of them. "We have to get out of here, now." David hesitated, but Emily was already running. "I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get out of there, away from both, away from anything that was named Whitmore." She crossed the side gate and entered the forest. The branches scratched his arms, the cold wind cut his face, but none of that mattered. He ran as if he fled his own life. After a few minutes, he fell to his knees on a clearing. The distant sound of the shots had ceased, only the wind and the rustle of the leaves. And then he heard a noise behind him. He turned slowly. Michael was there, panting, his face covered with dirt and a more human look than before. "I didn't come to hurt you," he said, lifting his hands, "but there is something you need to know before he finds you." Emily got up, the trembling body. "I don't believe in any of you anymore." "You don't have to believe me," he said. "You just need to know that your mother is still alive." Time stopped. The wind ceased. The world seemed to lean. "What?" Her voice came out in a whisper. "They kept her hidden all these years. They made you believe she was dead so that she never discovered what really happened." Emily retreated, stunned. "This is impossible. I saw the body. I went to the funeral." "That wasn't her," Michael said, her voice firm. "They created a lie to get you away. And you, in her place, believe in such a revelation, or think it's another trap?" Emily looked at him, trying to find some real trait in her eyes. But before you could say anything, the sound of footsteps approached quickly. David appeared on the edge of the clearing, with a flashlight in his hand and face covered with dry blood. "Move her, Michael!" Michael lifted his hands, but did not go back. "Tell her, David. Say the truth." David stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating, the glow of the flashlight shake in his hands. "Say," Michael insisted, "say what you did to Sarah." David closed his eyes for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was almost a whisper. "He's not lying." Emily felt the floor disappear under her feet. David dropped the flashlight, which fell into the grass with a hollow sound. "I kept her alive, but not for love, out of fear." The wind blew hard, the trees stirred, and the past seemed to crumble at once. And before Emily could react, a shot echoed through the forest. This time, it wasn't known who had tightened the trigger. The shot echoed in the forest, and the sound seemed to multiply between the trees, returning to echoes that sounded like shouts. Emily threw herself on the floor, her heart rapidly, her ears zunking. For a few seconds, I didn't know if I was still alive. The smell of gunpowder and wet earth mixed with dread. When he looked up, he saw David kneeling, his chest rising and descending in spasms. The weapon was lying beside him, still smoking. Michael, a few meters ahead, kept his hand over his shoulder. The blood dripped by the fingers. Emily's breath became short, intertwined. All I could think was that it had gone too far. The billionaire who claimed to be his father was injured. The other man, allegedly his true father, pointed to her as if he were a ready judge to sentence. The past, which until then looked like a puzzle, now turned into something physical, bloody, impossible to ignore. David tried to speak, the voice trick but audible. "He tried to kill me." Michael stepped toward him, still firm. "You have been dead for a long time, brother. Only the body is missing to understand." Emily shouted to stop, but neither of them heard her. There was something deeper at stake. This was not a momentary dispute. It was the culmination of years of hatred, guilt, and secrets that an entire family tried to hide under the varnish of wealth. David staggered, leaning on a tree. "Emily," he said among coughs, "I needed to keep you safe. That's why I hid your mother, so I lied." She felt the floor spin. "Safe? Lying to me? Destroying everything I believed?" Michael looked at her. He kept Sarah alive to have control over her. She knew too much. About business, about the council, about the dirty money that supported the Whitmore empire. The word money sounded like a snap inside Emily's mind. That was the real reason. No love, not protection, power. Money, pride. David straightened with effort. "It's a lie. Everything I did to protect it. He wanted to use you as a currency, Emily. I wanted to inherit everything I built. And you, in her place, believe in who? In the man who protected you with lies, or what suddenly appears with real promises?" Emily didn't answer. His gaze alternated between the two men. Two similar faces, two versions of the same tragedy. She no longer knew who to believe. The cold of the night seemed to get in the bones, the fear pulsating in the body as a fever. Michael took a deep breath, holding the wound. "Listen, Emily, your mother is alive, but not free. She was taken to one of the company's old warehouses, a place no one else visits. The advice keeps it hidden." Emily stepped forward, the trembling voice. "And why do you just tell me that now?" "Because now they know you exist," he said, "and they will come after you too." David tried to get up, but the body weakened. "Don't listen to her, Emily. He wants to manipulate you. Sarah never wanted you to get involved with this family." "And what did she want, David? That I lived lying to myself, pretending to be someone I am not?" He opened his mouth but did not answer. He just looked at her with the same look as before, the look of a man who carries too much to keep lying, but too cowardly to tell the truth. Emily walked away. The trees seemed to observe it. The wind whispered his name between the branches. For the first time, she felt that everything she lived, the life of simple waitress, the common mornings, the meaningless days, was just a distraction, an attempt to escape a fate that has always been lurking. Have you ever had the feeling that your whole life was just the prelude to a truth that expected the right time to appear? Michael approached her, his hands raised in surrender. "I can take you to her, to Sarah, but you need to trust me." David, still on his knees, shouted, "He'll destroy you." It was he who started everything. Emily backed up a step. The look of the two men begged for something different, one for forgiveness, the other by faith. And she didn't know who to give either. A thunder broke the silence, followed by lightning. The rain began to fall into thick drops, washing the blood from the floor. Emily turned to Michael. "If what you say is true, take me to her." He nodded. "We need to go out now." David tried to hold her, but she released herself. "I can't trust you anymore." He was still, his eyes teary. "Emily, if she is with him, may never come back." She didn't answer, just ran. Michael followed her through the forest, limping but determined. The lightning lights illuminated the way for seconds, revealing twisted logs and shadows that seemed to move. They reached an old car hidden under a canvas. Michael tore the roof and entered, coughing in pain. Emily hesitated before entering the passenger seat. He could still hear, in the distance, David's screams echoing between the trees. "He will come after us," she said. "I know," Michael answered. "And when he comes, maybe it's too late for all of us." The dirt road stretched ahead, surrounded by darkness. Michael drove fast, the fixed look. Emily tried to calm her breath. The sound of the rain beating the ceiling mixed with the engine's noise, creating an almost hypnotic rhythm. "How long until we arrive?" she asked. "Less than an hour, but before that there is something you need to understand." She looked at him suspiciously. "What?" Michael paused, a long break, the heavy expression. "Your mother. It's not the only one they hid." Emily frowned. "What do you mean by that?" "You were not the only child taken." Her blood froze. "Is there anyone else?" "Yes, your brother." The word fell like a blow. Emily stared at him, trying to understand if he was playing. "This is impossible. He was taken from Sarah before you were born, created by another branch of the family, and now works for the advice." Emily looked at him, astonished. "Are you saying that my brother works for the same men who tried to kill my mother, and that he is the next in the line of succession of the Whitmore fortune?" The car skidded slightly in the curve. Emily held the bench hard. The heart accelerated. "And you, in her place, faced a brother who didn't even know it existed, even though he knew he lived on the other side of the truth." Michael decreased the speed. "He doesn't know who you are. But when you know, everything will change." The rain fell stronger. The road disappeared under the fog. Emily looked ahead, her look at nothing. Inside her, fear and curiosity mingled as a poison. And then something crossed the track. A tall shadow stopped right along the way. Michael braked sharply. The car turned, skidding on the wet asphalt until it stops a few meters from the figure. Emily opened her eyes, the trembling body. The rain dripped down the windshield, distorting the silhouette ahead. The figure stepped toward the car, and when the headlight light finally revealed his face, the air seemed to disappear. It was David, but something in his gaze had changed completely. The rain fell like a dense curtain, and the sound of the drops in the hood of the car drifted what was left of sanity. Emily was looking at the figure standing before them, David's face illuminated by the headlights. But there was something different about him. The eyes, once full of guilt and fear, were now dark, cold, almost empty. The same expression she turns on the old tape, the look of a man who has lost control of his own soul. Michael behind the wheel breathed heavily. "Stay in the car." Emily swallowed dry. "What does he want?" "He doesn't want to talk." Before they could react, David stepped ahead. The sound of a shot echoed, reaching the left headlight. The glass exploded in light fragments. Michael accelerated, but David didn't move. He stood, standing in the middle of the road like a ghost in flesh and bone. Michael deflected the car to the right, but lost control. The vehicle skidded and got out of the track, hitting a tree. The impact played Emily against the panel. Everything was silent for a moment except the rain chiado. When she opened her eyes, her body hurt, and Michael was unconscious. The blood dripped from his temple. Emily tried to wake him up, but he didn't react. With difficulty, he opened the door and got out of the car. The wind was sharp, and the air smelled the gasoline. The road was deserted. Only David was still there, walking slowly toward her. "Why are you doing this?" she shouted, her embargoed voice. David stopped a few meters. "Because you need to understand, Emily. You need to see with your own eyes what this family really is." She took a step back. "Are you hurting people in the name of power, of guilt?" "With love," he answered, and calm in his voice was what he saved the most. "A love that destroys." The words hovered in the air like smoke. Emily felt the floor slip under her feet. Nothing made sense. Everything he believed was discovering. The whole journey of revelations and secrets seemed to be disposed of in dust. Who told the truth? Who still lied? And you, in her place, believe in someone who says love, but destroys everything around to prove it? Emily looked at the car, where Michael was still unconscious, and then to David, who now looked more like a shadow than a man. His voice sounded distant, almost hypnotic. "Do you think it's the first to suffer because of the Whitmore?" he continued. "Everyone who touched that name paid the price. Your mother knew that. So you tried to hide you." "And you?" she replied. "Why did you come back?" David gave a half smile. "Because it does not escape the blood itself." She felt anger grow inside her. Anger to believe, for trusting. He remembered the days in the café, the simple life he had, first of all Waitress, that woke up early, served coffee and dreamed of paying the rent. That girl no longer existed. It was replaced by someone who lived between shadows, secrets, and shots. David took another step toward her. "Come with me, Emily. I can protect you." She retreated. "From yourself?" His gaze changed. For a moment she saw the vulnerable man he went, which he loved, Sarah, which he believed was saving a lost daughter. But this flash was short-lived. He reached out and calm came back to the look. There is no right or wrong, only survival. Suddenly a voice behind him broke the silence. "He drops her, David." It was Michael, the bloody face, the trembling body, but the look determined. He held a gun, pointing to his own brother. David turned slowly. "So that's like that?" "The same story repeats itself, one Whitmore against the other." "It is over today," Michael replied. Emily was between the two, her heart hitting rapidly. No, come that of violence, but they didn't hear any more. They were two ancient forces facing each other, the past against the present, the guilt against regret. David raised his hands unarmed. "You don't have the courage, brother. Never had." Michael hesitated, the hands shake. The sound of the rain was deafening, and then Emily shouted, "Stop!" She placed herself between the two, opening her arms. "I don't want to be the reason for the most blood." David stepped ahead, his voice low. "Emily, you don't understand. There is something bigger than the three of us. If you don't come with me, they'll find you and kill everyone left." Who? She asked. David hesitated. The advice. They have always controlled everything. Who lives, who dies, who inherits. Emily felt her body shudder. That was the shocking truth that was slowly drawing. There was an invisible force behind all the secrets, something that moved every piece of this family tragedy. Michael lowered the gun, confused. So that was all the time. David looked at his brother. Yes, and now they go after her. And you, in his place, protect the truth, even if it cost everything. Emily turned slowly to Michael. And my mother? Is she still alive? Yes, David replied firmly, but not for long. The words fell like a sentence. Emily felt her legs failed. The world spun. Everything he had done until then seemed useless, a blind search for answers that only brought more pain. The rain increased, and thunder cut the sky. Michael approached her and held her hands. We can still save her, but you need to choose who we'll trust. She looked at him in the eye. I wanted to believe it, but the doubt was greater. Each of them carried a part of the truth and a part of the lie. And she, lost in the middle, could no longer distinguish which one. I don't know what is real anymore, he whispered. David approached, the voice almost a whisper. Then trust the blood. Michael interrupted him. Trust the truth. Her head throbbed, the mind shouted, the body trembled. Two voices, two destinations, an impossible decision. Suddenly headlights emerged at the end of the road, several, the sound of powerful engines approaching, black cars, the same at night in the mansion. David looked at the horizon. They thought us. Michael held Emily's arm. Run! But she was still, paralyzed by the confusion. The rain, the screams, the overshadowing lights. Everything mixed in a cinematic chaos. David ran to the destroyed car, taking something from the glove compartment. When he returned, he had another envelope in his hands. The paper was stained, but the name written in firm letters was still readable. For Emily, from your mother. He threw the envelope to her. The answers are there. The cars approached quickly. Michael pulled Emily by the hand, but she stood, looking at the soaked envelope in her own hands. That piece of paper seemed to weigh tons. And when he looked up, he realized that David was no longer there. The road was empty. Only the echo of his voice hovered in the rain. Read before they arrive. The noise of the engines was getting closer and closer. The car lights invaded the wet road, reflecting on Emily's face as she held the envelope with handy hands. Michael pulled her by the arm, trying to take her away, but something inside her said she couldn't get out of there without knowing what was written. The rain was hit hard, the wind blew against the face, and the sound of the sirens in the distance seemed to announce the final collapse of everything she knew. She opened the envelope. The paper inside was damp, the words blurred, but legible enough to destroy any certainty that was still left. Emily, the letter began, if you're reading this, it means they've found you, and perhaps finally the truth comes out. But no, the man who created it all, it's none of both. She felt her heart stop. Neither. The mind began to spin, trying to understand. Michael and David were destroying each other because of a secret, and now, there, amid rain and chaos, the mother said none of them was the real responsible. Emily read the rest, the roll shaking in her hands. Your true father never wanted you to know who he was. He lives in the shadows of the Whitmore Empire, the man who finances the advice, the same one who took everything from me. David and Michael are just pieces. His name was erased from all records, but he is alive, and he will look for you when you know that you know. The sound of a shot in the distance made her awaken from the shock. Michael pulled it hard, tearing the letter in half. Not here! They will see us! Wait! She shouted. My mother. She wrote that none of you is responsible. Michael looked at her confused, the water dripping over her face. What are you talking about? She said there is another man, one that controls the board. Michael paled. This is impossible. The board is made up of several investors. None of them have absolute power. "So why did she write that?" asked Emily, raising the paper. "Why would anyone make a letter like this if it wasn't true?" Michael hesitated. And at that moment of doubt, the first black car stopped sharply a few meters. Men of suit descended, all armed, their faces hidden by rain and shadows. "Run!" he shouted. They ran through the forest, the boots sinking into the mud, the shots echoing back. Emily felt the air burn her lungs, her heart hammering in her chest. Each shot seemed closer than the previous one. Michael stumbled on a root and fell, but got up with difficulty. "Go ahead." "No!" she shouted, extending her hand. "I won't leave you." One of the men was quickly approaching, the target aimed at her. Emily took a stone and hurled, hitting his arm. The shooting was just wrong. And would you, in her place, risk her own life for someone who may still be lying? They followed the trail until they saw an old wood construction ahead, half covered by ivy, an abandoned shed. They entered, panting, and pushed an old door that ranged loudly. Inside, the air was dense, smelling of rust and dust. In the center, a broken safe, papers scattered on the floor and a fallen chair. Michael lit a flashlight. This was one of the company's old deposits. Emily approached the papers. These were contracts, receipts, documents on behalf of companies that had never existed. "This is money laundering," he whispered. The advice was using the fortune to hide something bigger. Michael looked around, tense. "It's not just money. It is control. Politicians, judges, everything goes by." Emily lifted the flashlight and saw something that made blood freezes. A wall full of old photos. In one of them, his mother smiled, hugging a man who was neither David nor Michael. The same symbol of the Whitmore was in his ring. "My God," she murmured. "It's him." Michael approached. His face paled. "I know this man." "Who is it?" she asked, desperate. "Andrew Whitmore," he said. "Our father." The revelation fell like thunder inside it. "What do you mean, our father?" "He was the founder of everything," Michael continued, his voice low. "The patriarch. Everyone thought he had died 20 years ago, but if your mother wrote that, then he's alive." Emily stepped back, trying to sue. "So, it's him. He is the real culprit." Michael nodded. "The man who began the family war." Suddenly the sound of steps echoed outside. They looked at each other. Michael deleted L. Antern and signaled her to be silent. The door of the warehouse rang again, and a calm, deep voice cut the silence. "I always knew that curiosity would kill you, my children." Emily froze. That voice, severe, paused, relentless. The sound came from inside the darkness, and gradually a figure arose in the weak light of the lightning, a tall, silver-haired man wearing a flawless suit, as if the rain dare not touch him. Michael retreated, his breath failing. "Father." Andrew Whitmore stepped forward, her blue eyes sparkling coldly. "I see that they finally found what was left of me." Emily looked at him incredulously. "You destroyed everything. My mother, my life, the name of this family." "I created it all," he said, serene. "The empire, the name, the power. The rest was a consequence." Michael tried to move forward, but Andrew raised his hand. "No, my son, the story is not over yet." "It's over for you," he shouted, pointing the gun. Andrew just smiled. "You won't shoot me." His gaze turned to Emily, and for a second she felt such a strong chill that she could barely breathe. "And you, my dear, it has always been the most precious secret in the family." "What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice failing. "You're not a victim," he said calmly. "You are the heiress of the Whitmore Empire, and all this was done to bring it back. And you, in her place, believe that all suffering was just part of a plan to turn you into something I never wanted to be." Emily was paralyzed. His words echoed as a sentence. The man she believed was the enemy, the manipulator behind everything, now called her heiress. Michael stepped ahead, his face taken with anger. "She will never be part of that." Andrew looked at him with disdain. "Then die as your mother should have died." The shot came so fast that Emily only heard the echo. Michael fell to the floor, the blood mixing with the rain that drained through the roof cracks. Emily shouted, kneeling beside him. His breathing was weak, his eyes teary. Andrew kept the gun and turned, walking to the door. "Tomorrow, when the world knows who you really are, you will understand that all I did was to give you the power that was always yours." Emily looked into the body of the fallen man, and then to her father's figure disappearing in the darkness. Anger and fear mingled like fire and gasoline. From that moment on, she knew that there was no return anymore. No forgiveness, no escape, just the truth and revenge. The rain was still falling, but now the sound was distant, stuffy, as if the world had stopped breathing. Emily knelt beside Michael, his body cold, the blood slowly running down the floor. The breath was weak, almost imperceptible, but he was still alive. She held his hand tightly, feeling the remaining light tremor. "Stay with me, please," he whispered. His eyes opened, blurred by pain. I tried. Protect you." Emily felt her tears mingle with the rain. "I know." He squeezed her hand with the little strength he had. "Don't trust in anyone, not even in me." Those words hit her like a blade. Before he could answer, his body relaxed, and the silence that came later was more cruel than any shot. She stood there immobile, staring at the emptiness, the sound of the rain replacing the heartbeat that had just ceased. Emily's mind spinned. Everything that had discovered, the lies, the revelations, the hidden empire, seemed to condense in one thought. Now she was alone. But something inside her, a small, insistent flame, refused to erase. Michael could have lied. David could have betrayed it. But there was a truth that she couldn't ignore. Andrew Whitmore was still alive. And as he lived, the lies would continue to ruling the fate of that family. She got up, staggers, the hands shaved, his face was covered with blood and mud, but his eyes carried something new, determination. "And you, in her place, let fear win or face who destroyed your life." Outside, the car lights still illuminated the road, but none of the men's men had entered the shed. Emily realized that Andrew had not brought them just to attack. He wanted her to see. "I wanted to witness the fall of all who tried to protect it, in order to, in the end, have no choice but to accept his place." She searched the shed. Among the scattered papers, he found a folder marked with the family symbol, the gold W. Inside, bank records, contracts, and among them, a list of names, politicians, businessmen, judges, all bought by the Whitmore empire. At the top, a name that made her stop. "Sarah Whitmore, your mother." Emily turned the page and saw a recent date, accompanied by a signature. It was a Contra Transfer Act, something about donations from ghost companies. But the most shocking was in the final observation, written by hand. "Authorized by Andrew, executed by Sarah." She backed away, her heart firing. No, the lyrics were from the mother. And if that were real, it meant that Sarah was still alive, and worse, working for the man who destroyed the family. "And you, in her place, forgive a mother who joined the enemy to survive." A sound behind her made her turn. The side door of the shed opened hard, and a figure entered, wet and panting. Emily instinctively picked up the lying gun beside Michael's body. "Calm down," said a feminine voice. "Don't shoot." Emily narrowed her eyes. The woman stepped ahead, taking the hood. The shock made time stop. It was her. Mother, Sarah Whitmore was there, live. The grey hair, the face marked by time. But the eyes were the same, firm, intense, full of unlisted stories. Emily backed away, her chest tight. "This is impossible." "I know it's hard," said Sarah, the low voice, "but I can't let you do what you're about to do." "What am I about to do?" shouted Emily. "I just want to end it." Sarah approached slowly. "And do you think you can, alone?" "You don't understand, my daughter. The empire does not destroy itself. It transforms itself." "What does it transform? In a lie? In death?" Sarah took a deep breath. "In power." Emily shook her head incredulously. "So it's true. You are with him." Sarah looked away. I'm alive because of him. It's alive because he kept you captive. No, Emily, Sarah answered, and her coldness in her voice was worse than a blow. I'm alive because I decided to cooperate. The words echoed like thunder inside her. Emily stepped back, feeling the floor disappear. Everything he believed about his mother, the brave woman, the victim of a cruel family, was crumbled before her eyes. Sarah took another step. Andrew is old, sick. He needs someone to continue the legacy, and he chose you. Emily squeezed the gun in her hands. Never. It's too late. Sarah reached out, almost begging. Whitmore blood runs on you, and that no one can erase. Atuk and you, in her place, believe that fate can be inherited, even against your own will. Emily slowly lowered her gun, her eyes full of pain. So all this time, you were helping him find me. I did what I needed, Sarah answered, to survive. The voice of the mother who once represented love now sounded like a sentence. Emily felt something inside her, a mixture of anger, sadness, and disappointment. Sarah approached another step. Come with me. Let me show you what it really is to be a Whitmore. Emily stared at her, and for a second she almost believed. But then he looked at Michael's body, lying on the floor, and something inside it changed. To be a Whitmore is living lying, is hiding corpses in the name of power. I don't want that. Sarah sighed. You have no choice. Yes, I have. Emily's voice came out firm, sharp. And she starts now. She pulled the trigger. The sound of the shot echoed through the shed, followed by absolute silence. Sarah fell to her knees, the expression taken by the shock, but alive. The shot had hit her shoulder. Emily breathed fast, her body shaking, but her eyes cold. Now he'll know I'm not his game anymore. Outside, a new row of cars was approaching. Sirens, shouts, the sound of boots on the floor. Sarah, wounded, raised her face. He's coming. Emily looked at the horizon, the wind blowing her wet hair back. So let it come. And when the first beam of light crossed the trees, she learned that the final confrontation was about to begin. The sirens were closer, the sound echoing between the trees as a warning. Emily held her gun with trembling hands, her body covered with mud and blood, her heart beating a rhythm that mixed fear and fury. In front of him, Sarah, wounded on her shoulder, was trying to get up, her face contracted with pain and guilt. Outside, the cars aligned, and the red and blue lights reflected on the walls of the shed, dyeing everything with the intermittent shine of destruction. The wind carried the smell of gasoline and wet earth, and for a moment, Emily felt like she was in the middle of a nightmare, one of those you try to wake up, but reality insists on pulling you back. The sound of the boots echoed on the floor, doors opened, and then a familiar voice cut the noise of the storm. He said one day you would understand, Emily. Andrew Whitmore was there, the man who everyone believed to be dead, the man who had created an empire built on secrets and blood. He walked slowly with a black umbrella, his almost serene face, as if none of that affected him. Behind him a row of armed men, the advice, the true power behind the family. Ili raised the gun, pointing to him. He arrives. He finished. Andrew stopped a few meters, the firm look. Nothing is over, my daughter. It only changes shape. Don't call me that, she shouted, the despair mixing with anger. You destroyed everything. My life, my mother, that of all who played this damn name. Andrew took a deep breath, approaching another step. And yet here are you, with the gun in hand, in front of the council, in the same place where I was 40 years. It's repeating the story, Emily. The difference is that now you have the power to change the end. Emily hesitated. His words had something poisonous, but also true. Everything she had done there, the escapes, the losses, the deaths, had taken her back to that point. And you, in her place, be able to distinguish revenge from justice? Sarah tried to rise, resting on the wall. Emily, don't listen. He will manipulate you as you did to me. Andrew turned calmly to her. You talk about manipulation, Sarah, but who cheated on me first? Who stole the board documents and tried to deliver to the press? Because I couldn't stand to see what you did, she shouted. Children, whole families destroyed because of a name. Andrew looked at her for a moment and then turned to Emily. Your mother has always had a special talent to dramatize, but in the end, she always came back, has always chosen power to the truth. Lie, Sarah moaned, staggering. I pretended to survive. Andrew just smiled. Surviving is just another way to say, to sell yourself slowly. Emily felt her head throb. What was true? Who was lying? With each word of them, the floor seemed to open a little more under his feet. She looked at the gun in her hands. The metallic weight seemed to pull her into the same abyss that had swallowed all the Whitmore before her. Andrew took another step. Give me that gun, Emily. I don't want to hurt you. Is that what I said to my mother? She asked, her voice low. Before you kill her, Andrew raised an eyebrow. I never touched your mother a finger. Sarah, panting, shouted, He's lying. He sent the men behind me. Andrew looked at her calmly. I sent it, yes, but not to kill her, to protect the only person who still mattered to me. He turned again to Emily. You. Emily was still. Protect me? After everything you did? Andrew got closer, the fixed gaze on hers. You think you understand what happened, but you don't know the main one yet. And what do I don't know? She asked, her voice embargoed. Andrew gave a half smile. That you were never David's daughter, neither Michael nor mine. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the sound of the rain seemed to stop. What? Her voice barely left. Andrew continued. You were created to be a Whitmore, but you were born from another lineage, a lineage that the advice tried to erase. Your blood, Emily, is what threatens this empire. You are the daughter of someone they betrayed and buried decades ago. She staggered back. This is impossible. Andrew approached another step. Your true family was destroyed so that the name Whitmore remains untouched. Their birth was a mistake they tried to correct, but I saw potential in you. I saw what no one else saw. A successor. Emily felt her breath fail. Everything inside her shouted that it could not be true. But at the same time, every fragment of memory, every silence of the mother, every old lie seemed to fit into that new puzzle. And you, in her place, bear to find out that all your life has been planned by someone who used you from birth. Sarah tried to speak, but Andrew continued. I took you out of the orphanage after the accident. I put the name Whitmore in your documents. I created a story. I made you part of the family. Emily looked at him in shock. So am I not at all? Andrew smiled, cold. On the contrary, you are everything. The missing link to unite the blood they tried to erase. Sarah shouted, desperate. He lies. Emily, I took you in my arms when you were born. You were mine. Andrew stared at her with contempt. It was, until you signed the papers. Emily turned to her mother, the voice almost without sound. Papers? Sarah cried now. I thought I was saving you. They said they were going to kill you if I didn't agree. I signed it to take you so you had a chance. Her words broke the air. Emily dropped the gun. All that was left was the sound of the rain and the distant noise of the cars still standing outside. Andrew approached, his shadow covering her face. Now you understand, my daughter. You are not a victim. You are heir to a secret that can destroy the name Whitmore, and that's why they always tried to control you. Emily looked up, tears blending into the rain. So that's it? Was all my life a lie? Andrew landed the hand on her shoulder. No, Emily. It was a training. She pushed him tightly, the anger coming back. You have turned my pain into an experiment. He smiled. And see what you gave. You survived. She took the gun again, pointing straight to him. Surviving is not the same as living. Andrew didn't go back. And killing is not the same as freeing yourself. His words hovered in the air, and for a moment there was nothing but them two, father and daughter for imposition, enemies by destination. Sarah shouted, Emily, no! But the shot broke the silence before anyone could stop. Andrew's body fell slowly, his eyes still open, and a half-frozen smile on his face, the smile of those who, even dying, believes he won. Emily breathed breathlessly, the weapon still hot in her hands. The sound of the rain came back, heavy, constant, as if the sky cried for them. But when she stepped ahead, something caught her attention. On the floor, near Andrew's body, a small metal device flashed, emitting a low, continuous noise. She bent down, and fear came back hard. It was a recorder, and when the voice that came out of him echoed by the shed, Emily understood that the worst was yet to come. "If you're hearing this, it's because I died exactly as I planned," Andrew's voice said. "But the truth has not yet been revealed." The sound of the recorder echoed through the shed, each word of Andrew crossing the heavy air like a sentence. Emily remained immobile, her body covered with mud, her eyes fixed on the small device that flashed on the floor. The man was dead before her. The blood mingled with the rain that entered the roof's cracks, but his voice still filled the space as if death had just been one of his strategies. "If you're hearing this, it's because I died exactly as I planned. Make no mistake, my death is not the end. It's the trigger. The true heiress will know what to do." Emily felt a shiver run through her body. Each syllable seemed carefully calculated. The trigger. What did he mean by that? Sarah, still leaning against the wall, bleeding through her shoulder, but her gaze was fixed on Andrew. "He's not bluffing," he whispered. "This is part of the plan. He never does anything without preparing what comes later." Emily looked at her, confused and furiously. "What did he get ready, Mother?" Before Sarah answered, the recorder continued. "Within this shed there is a vault, the same one who has kept the past of our family. But now it contains the future. If opened without the correct code, everything I built, every name, every transaction, every board secret, will be sent automatically to the whole world." The voice paused, as if Andrew still controlled the even, dead rhythm. "Only one person has the code, and that person will know what to do when the blood falls." Emily looked around, astonished. "The blood falls? What does that mean?" Sarah paled. "He activated a recognition system. He used his own DNA as a key." Suddenly, a red light began to blink on the panel at the bottom of the shed. A metallic noise vibrated on the floor, and one of the walls began to move slowly, revealing a steel chamber. Inside, a series of screens light, showing images of newspapers, TV broadcasts, financial records, and known faces, all linked to the name Whitmore Industries. Emily stepped forward, her eyes wide. "He's exposing everything." Sarah tried to get up, but staggered. "No, Emily. This is just the beginning. He wants to force you to continue his work." The red light intensified, and the countdown sound began to echo through the speakers. 60 seconds for global upload. Emily ran to the panel, typing anything that remembered a code. "I need to stop that." Sarah tried to approach, but the pain made her fall to her knees. "Emily, listen. If you stop upload, everything is still the same. The council, the crimes, the empire. But if you let it happen, the world will see what the Whitmore really are." Emily stopped. The hands hovered over the keyboard. The heart beat too fast. "And you, in her place, let the truth destroy everything, even if it meant losing what's left of your family." The sound of the rain mingled with the count. 45 seconds. 44, 43. Sarah watched her with tears mixed with the water that dripped from the ceiling. "Think, daughter. He created you to be the successor. But maybe you were born to be the end." Emily looked at the body of the fallen man, her face still with that half-smile. Everything seemed like a game that he still controlled, even dead. But there was something inside her that said he had not calculated everything. Not this time. She took a deep breath and typed again. The screen blinked, asking for the final password. "Enter the genetic code." The display flashed in red. Without correct DNA, upload would be interrupted and activated self-destruction. Emily looked at Andrew's blood, the floor, The same blood that had ruined generations. She knelt, touched her cold, wet body, and plunged her fingers in her blood. He walked to the panel and ran a hand over the reader. The red light became yellow, then green. Sarah shouted, "Emily, no!" The count stopped in 5 seconds. The system made a severe and metallic sound, and then a new message came on screen. Confirmed recognition. Authorized user, Emily Whitmore. Upload started. Files spread across the net. Screens flashing with images of corruption, murders, bribes, and illegal experiments. The name Whitmore appeared in headlines around the world. Sarah fell to the floor crying, "You don't understand." He planned that too. Emily turned, exhausted. "What did you plan?" "He knew you would choose the truth. And that's why it made you look guilty." Emily's eyes froze. "What?" Sarah pointed to one of the screens. There, a live broadcast showed the authorities talking about criminal leak. The face displayed in the images was hers, Emily Whitmore. The system was tracking the upload straight from the shed. She stumbled back, her mind collapsed. "He turned me to the villain." Sarah tried to lift, desperate. "We need to get out of here now. They are coming." Outside, the sound of the sirens became louder. Several vehicles surrounded the area. The council, the federal, all ready to capture it. Emily ran to Andrew's body, kicking the recorder that still reproduced his last message. The world will always need an enemy to continue believing in heroes. She shouted and hurled the recorder against the wall. The sound fell on metal echoes. Sarah pulled her by the hand and together ran to the back of the shed, where a narrow exit was taking to the thicket. The wind blew hard, the sky opened in lightning, and the sound of helicopters was already approaching. And would you, in her place, escape or stay to face the consequences of an empire in ruins? Emily ran without looking back. Each step was a cut, every breath a memory of the price of truth. The forest looked alive, the floor slippery. When they reached the hillside of a hill, they could see the shine of the shed exploding in flames, an automatic reaction of the system, destroying physical evidence. Emily stopped and looked back. The fire illuminated the night, and for a moment she thought she saw Andrew's figure between the flames, as if hell himself received him back. Sarah held her arm. "We need to continue." But Emily didn't move. The look fixed in the fire, the trembling voice, almost a whisper. "He got it, Mother. Even dead, he won." Sarah stared at her, exhausted. "No, he just wrote the beginning of the story. Now it's up to you to decide how it ends." Emily looked at the horizon, where the sky was divided between the red of the fire and the black of the storm. In the reflection of the flames, she saw her own face, that of a woman who was no daughter, no victim, no heiress, but something new, something the Empire could never predict. And when the helicopters crossed the sky, it whispered firmly, like a promise, "So I'll burn the name Whitmore until the last secret falls." Behind her, the shed collapsed completely, and the war of truth was just beginning. The rain had stopped, but the air still carried the smell of smoke and destruction. Emily walked slowly through the mud-covered slope, her boots sinking with each step. The shed, now reduced to ashes, burned in the distance as a monument in flames to the decadence of the Whitmore family. The fire illuminated the cloudy sky and reflected in her eyes, which seemed colder, more determined, eyes of those who had lost everything but won something more dangerous: purpose. Sarah was going back, limping, her arms still bandaged. Neither spoke. The silence was heavy, filled with thoughts that none would have the courage to say aloud. The distant sound of the sirens indicated that the search continued. Emily knew they couldn't stay there long. The truth had been released, but the price was yet to come. They reached an old road, cut by the fog. An abandoned truck was parked by the bush. Emily climbed into the body, watching the horizon. The world outside now knew what the Whitmore had done. The crimes, the manipulations, the dirty fortunes. But what the audience didn't know was who had pulled the trigger. For all purposes, she was the guilty. And you, in her place, Escape to save or stay to face the weight of her own name? Sarah approached the tired voice. They will hunt you, Emily. They will blame you for everything. Emily turned her face to her. They are already hunting me, Mother. And maybe that's exactly what I need. Sarah looked at her confused. What do you mean by that? That the Whitmore empire is not over. There are still names, companies, hidden accounts, and people who continue in with Ando. Sarah sat next to her, her eyes teary. Andrew destroyed everything he played. You don't have to continue that. Emily looked into the fire in the distance. I won't continue. I will erase. The words came out cold, sharp. The daughter of the lie now spoke, how the echo of the empire he had sworn to destroy, but there was something different in his tone. It was not ambition. It was justice. Sarah took a deep breath. What if it transforms you into what he was? Emily was silent for a while. The question hurt because it echoed exactly what she feared. Maybe I need to be a little like him, to end what he created. The sound of helicopters came back in the distance. Spotlights swept the road, and the reflection of blue and red lights danced on the fog. Emily bent down and pulled Sarah behind the truck. They are close, he whispered. The heart beat fast, but the fear was no longer the same. Now there was a dangerous calm inside her. And you, in her place, be able to use her name as a weapon against those who corrupted him. The vehicles approached, and for a moment Emily thought of surrendering. Let the world decide her fate. But something inside her still shouted that there was a part of the story that had not been told. She took off her neck necklace, a simple silver pendant, the only object that had been left from childhood. He opened the closure and saw, hidden inside him, a tiny microchip. Her mother had said that the necklace was all that was left of the past, but now she understood the true meaning of the sentence. Sarah widened her eyes. Where did you get it? You gave me when I was a child. Sarah was pale. I thought it was just a pendant. Emily held the chip between her fingers. Andrew didn't just want an heir, he wanted a receptacle. He implemented the real access code on this chip, the master file, the heart of the empire. Sarah took her hands to her mouth. So there's still something he didn't destroy, and that's why they haven't given up on me yet. Emily looked at the sky, the helicopters approaching. The lights swept the field in search of movement. She stuck the chip in her pocket and got up. Sarah tried to stop her. What are you going to do? Finish what I started. The sound of speakers echoed along the road. Emily Whitmore, you're surrounded. Get out with your hands raised. Sarah held her by the arm. Please don't go. Emily looked at her mother with a look that mixed tenderness and pain. I've been too far to come back. Sarah cried, but she knew there was nothing more to say. The daughter she had lost was still her daughter, only now she was also the mirror of what the empire had molded. Emily took a few steps to the middle of the road. The wind made her hair hit the face, the fire of the shed still reflecting in the distance. The sound of the helicopters was deafening. She slowly lifted her hands, a fixed look in the lights, but instead of surrendered, he shouted, You think you won, but you haven't heard the full story yet. One of the helicopters stopped above her, and the voice on the speaker was repeated, Emily Whitmore, testify the weapons. She smiled, a tired smile, but full of conviction. I have no weapons, just the truth. At that moment, the sound of a shot cut the air. The impact threw it back. Sarah shouted, running to her, the despair tearing her voice. Emily fell to her knees, the blood staining the asphalt. The agents ran, shouts mingling with the noise of the wind and rain that was beginning to fall again. Sarah held her daughter's face. Stay with me, please. Emily breathed with difficulty, a fixed gaze in the sky. He never won. With effort, she took the broken necklace on the floor and put it into her mother's hands. Protect this. It's his end. Sarah held the necklace, sobbing, I promise. The sound of the sirens was being distant, as if the whole world dissolved in a blur. But before erasing, Emily saw something on the horizon, a stopped silhouette, watching from afar, in the rain. A tall man in a dark suit, his face partially hidden. He was not a police officer. It was not Andrew. It was someone she had never seen before. The man placed his hand in his jacket pocket, and the glow of a gold ring with the symbol W reflected under the lightning. Sarah looked in the same direction, but the figure had already disappeared. The sound of the rain has dominated everything again. And you, what would you do if you realized that the story that seemed to end was just starting? Sarah hugged her daughter's body, the tight necklace against her chest, while in the distance the storm erased the last flames of the Whitmore Empire, but not the secret that still lived inside it. And that night, between fire and rain, silence carried a promise. The past can be buried, but the truth always finds a new air. The rain ceased completely, but the sound of the drops running down the leaves still filled the air as an echo of what had happened. Astrayed, it was now silent except for the distant noise of the slowly departing sirens. Sarah remained kneeling, holding the necklace that Emily had given her. The closed pendant seemed to be pulsed into his hand, as if he carried the very heart of a story that was not over. The fire of the shed had faded, but on the horizon, between the shadows and the fog, there was still a thin column of smoke, the last breath of an empire that burned, but perhaps not yet dead. The agents around the place dispersed, some dozing together, others looking at Sarah with uncertain eyes. None of them knew what had really happened. None of them knew the real name behind the Whitmore ruin. For the world, Emily would be remembered as a criminal, the woman who exposed secrets and destroyed fortunes. But for her mother, she would be something else. The only one who had the courage to face the truth, even when she bleeding. Sarah cleaned her face, breathing with difficulty. The necklace in his hand reflected the weak light of the dawn that was beginning to emerge. For a moment, she thought of opening the pendant and destroying the chip inside it, ending that cycle once and for all. But something inside her prevented her. Emily's words echoed in her mind. "Protects this. It's his end." She kept the necklace in her pocket, looked at the empty road and began to walk, stumbled between the mud and the wreckage. With each step, I felt that I was not just running away from the crime scene, but carrying a new start. Behind her, the helicopters disappeared between the clouds. Ahead, the road was lost in the fog, as if the destination had not yet been written. And you, what would you do if you had in your hands the secret capable of destroying an entire empire? Would you reveal it, or would you protect you? In the distance, a figure watched her from the roadside, the same man as the golden ring, now with a dark overcoat, his face hidden by the shadow. When Sarah passed him, she pretended not to realize, but her heart accelerated. She felt his look, heavy, calculating. As soon as she walked away, the man led his hand to his ear and murmured something low, almost inaudible, as if talking to someone on the other side of a line. Minutes later, a black car came out of nowhere and stopped before him. The door opened alone. He entered without saying a word, and the vehicle drove silently on the wet road. Sarah stopped for a moment, feeling the cold wind hit the face. The sun was beginning to be born between the mountains, dyeing the sky with orange tones. It was a new day, but nothing seemed new. All that was left was the doubt and the weight of what was yet to come. The necklace, now hidden under clothes, seemed to burn against the skin. With each step, she wondered if that secret would finally bring peace, or if she would only open another door to chaos. The empire was ruined, but the names, faces, and symbols were still alive, and the Whitmore blood never completely disappeared. The wind blew, bringing with it a camascated piece of paper that fell at its feet. Sarah bent down and caught him. They were fragments of a partially burned document. The still readable words made his body shudder. Lazarus Project, Genetic Recovery Operation. She looked at the horizon, the gaze taken by dread and understanding. The empire had not died. It only transformed, like a snake changing skin. Sarah stepped back, the roll shaking in her hands. Tears ran down the tired face. My God, what did you do, Andrew? The distant sound of an engine made her turn around. A new car came along the road, silent but constant. Fear returned, the same as she'd been feeling 23 years ago when she had run away with a child in her arms. And at that moment he understood that the cycle was about to start over, with new names, new faces, and the same lies. The wind increased, spreading smoke through the sky. Sarah took a deep breath, looked back and kept walking, disappearing between the mist. The necklace shone under the fabric of the coat, throbbing as if I had a life of its own. But somewhere far from there, on a server hidden in the digital depths of the Whitmore Empire, a new notification flashed. Transfer completed. Active backup. And Emily's face came on screen, now rebuilt by artificial intelligence. The name in the lower corner said only Project L. The story was not over. She was just starting again, in another way, in another body, in another mind. If this story has moved you, subscribe to the channel. Leave your like. It is very important for these stories to continue to get to you. Comment the sentence, "I watched till the end." And don't miss the next video that is already on the screen, because the secret that seemed buried will resurface, and this time no one will be saved.